Where have we come from? And I think we've got to look at ourselves in real time. We live in a period when Europe, a century or two ago, discovered coal and then oil, and it transformed its economy. Well, towards the end of the 19th century, we were getting the internal combustion engine. So we go into the 19th century all prepared for combustion. And there, when I first came into combustion, the sacred text was that of Lewis and Waddell. Bernard Lewis was the key man. And then we set up, and Bernard Lewis was active in that, we set up the Combustion Institute. The Combustion Institute has done a really good job. Sometimes you may be annoyed about some aspects of it, be annoyed with combustion and flame when your papers aren't accepted and all the rest of it. But in the main, the Combustion Institute's been a very positive thing.
Simplifications that lead to understanding are the sorts of things that I admire most.
So it's not just a question of a flame, it's the nature of the flame that you have to think of.
Dovich, of course, he led to lots of understanding of combustion processes. His ideas are the basics of activation energy asymptotics. He has ideas for flame propagation and initially reacting mixtures, a wide range of important contributions in the area.
Zeldovich, who essentially set down the timetable of the detonation. And of course, now that was scientific, and the rising Combustion Institute, looking for science to investigate, got stuck in on to detonation. But now we know a lot. For example, our group can identify 7 different sorts of pre-mixed flame.
Experiments are absolutely essential. Without experiments, there's nothing to theorize about, really. Or else you're just talking in thin air. No, experiments are really, really very important. And when I started in the field, that was what combustion theory was about, trying to explain results of experiments. There's the third element that came in later, which is computation. DNS is now roughly equal to experiment in things to try to explain with theory.
We did our first computing here, and it's very interesting. We had, the first thing we did was we copied some Russian work on lubrication. That's what we did first at Leeds. And I remember my colleague who was doing this, I came across from the computing lab one morning, and I saw him at the bus stop. And I said to him, why are you going home so early, Gordon? He says, I've just done 6 months' work in the last hour. And that was his practical use of the computer. Not only was he doing lubrication calculations, what was taking 6 months, he was doing in an hour. Then you can guess what happened. The colleagues in chemistry started doing the same with chemical kinetics. And then the colleagues in fluid mechanics started doing the same with flow problems. The excitement of getting complex fluid flow solutions, complex chemical kinetics, and lubrication. And it's hard to overestimate what that did in that few months, and of course is still continuing. The safety, that perhaps is the most positive thing you might say. Although that included tragedies, like looking into the Concorde accident, that was a terrible thing. Buncefield explosion was a terrible thing that we investigated.
Did my PhD with Saul Penner at Caltech, and found things I didn't understand about combustion ever since. And so, good thing to learn about. I really don't know what would be the most important breakthrough in the work that I've done. So I'm more in the mathematical aspects of combustion than, than the experimental aspects. I mean, there are really four of us who worked on that. We Norbert Peters, Paul Clevan, Lignan, and me. Norbert calls us the San Diego Gang of Four.
We can all guess about the future for energy. The question of hydrogen, I don't know whether it's going to be a curse in nuclear reactors or if it's going to be a real benefit in controlled combustion in a hybrid engine. A hybrid engine, the engine part of it is very important, and to charge your batteries, you need very good efficiency there. We can talk about where we are, what things we know, and what we're going to need to know, how we've got to modify where we are now.
My feeling is that there will always be a useful, practical, environmentally friendly way to role for combustion in our future. So the subject is not going away, despite what people say. It's becoming more important. It will become more important, I think. Just hang in there.
And it's been fantastic, because the problems have been so diverse that they just grip you, absolutely. You can't sleep at night. You're worrying about all these things. It really grips you. And if you grips like that, along with other colleagues, then you're making very, very firm friendships. When you're doing difficult things together and you're helping each other, it's fantastic what friendships you make.